Welcome to the Paige Trippin' Podcast. I'm Paige, the nervous system coach, neurodivergent mom of four, former educator, and author of Emotional Fire Drills. I'm on a mission to help us all learn to feel safe in our bodies so we can finally unlearn what no longer serves us, to question everything so we can finally grow together. This is our safe place to unlearn, question, and get real AF about the journey to who we are underneath all that noise. It's okay to trip along the way, as long as we keep moving forward together. Let's trip. In this episode, I talked to the amazing Nora, a somatic coach specializing in helping anxiously attached women rewire their nervous system and embody secure love. Nora explained her journey after an unhealthy relationship and how it led to her eventually becoming a coach. We explore attachment styles, the importance of creating safety in the healing process, and how somatic work helps resolve trauma by working with the body rather than just talking about issues. Nora emphasizes that boundaries are maintaining connection and with oneself rather than keeping others out, and she suggests that turning inward to recognize one's feelings is the first step towards healing and reclaiming power. If you are a person on this journey or just really curious about attachment styles and boundaries and learning how to love yourself so that you're not seeking out an external validation, then this episode's for you, and I hope you enjoy Nora and her amazing journey and insight into this topic. Remember, at the end of every episode, if you head back into my show, you will find a mini unlearning guide after the trailer of season 2 that you can use to help you begin your unlearning journey. And on that note, if you have any questions, always email me at pagetrippin1 or check the show notes on how to connect with the guest or myself in order to start your unlearning process. And on that note, let's start tripping. All right, welcome back to the Paige Trippin' Podcast. I'm here with Nora, a certified somatic coach trained in DARE and somatic experiencing, specializing in helping anxiously attached women rewire their nervous system and embody secure love. After breaking her own patterns through body-based healing, she now guides other women to create deep inner safety so that they can stop performing for love and start receiving it. Welcome, Nora. I'm so excited to have you here, and we are excited to hear all about your journey. How are you today?
Hi, thank you for having me. I am so happy to be here. I'm doing really good. How about you?
Good, very good. I'm
Mm.
so honored to have you here. I've been watching your stories and like just your journey, and it's such an inspiration because so many women are conditioned to just kind of play into that role of being the good girl. And I mean, I've been, since I was a little girl, I always thought like, oh, I just want to be a mom. I want to be married. This is all I've always ever wanted. And so seeing more women step into this, love yourself first role, like really be secure in who you are, and then enter into these relationships is so beautiful because I feel like I'm doing it backwards.
Mhm.
As I say a lot on on these shows,
Yeah.
like I didn't learn this. I didn't, I just thought that that's what I should be. And now I'm realizing there's so much more. So, can you tell us a little bit about how you started in this journey of helping women learn how to reconnect to themselves so that they're not chasing love, but feeling loved within? And where did it
Yeah.
start and how did you get here?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, like, where do I begin? So it all started when I was in a really unhealthy relationship. So I was in a 3-year relationship that was very like roller coaster rides, high highs, low lows. And then I think about 2.5 years in, I was getting so tired of that dynamic. It's really exhausting. If anybody has been in like that kind of unhealthy relationship, you know how exhausting it is, right? Like the overthinking, the walking on eggshells, like if they break up, like, no, I want you back, like, don't you love me kind of thing. So that was so much for my system.
Mm,
And I remember in one of our breakups, I was sitting on my bed and I was on Pinterest. I don't know what I was doing, but I saw a Get Your Ex Back meditation. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Clicked on that so fast. I'm like, yes, I need him back. Um, so I did the meditation and it was my first time meditating. I didn't even know like what meditation really was. And For me, meditation was so fun. And I do want to do a little disclaimer. For some people, meditation might be not the best thing for them and might activate them. For me, that was not the case. For me, it felt like this beautiful escape. Like I could
Mhm.
just daydream, but I know I'm also being quote unquote productive because I was very much in that I need to be producing kind of energy.
Yeah.
Um, so I started that meditating right after that. And I started meditating twice a day because of how much I loved it. And I was so stressed in my life. I was in a job that I hated. So meditating was my only escape. The more that I meditated, the more that almost like a light bulb turned on in my mind of like, there is more. Like there is more to life. Like how am I like doing all these things I don't want to do? I felt so stuck prior. And
Mm.
then as I continue to connect with myself, I'm like, no, I'm not stuck. Like these are all just reflections. Like I started, it's almost like my awareness increased. Like I started seeing things differently and from different angles, and I started seeing my role in my life. Um, so shortly after that, I'm like, I want to be a coach. I want to be a therapist. Like I want to do something in the mental health field. A funny story. When I was going to school, I talked to the school counselor and I was considering going to school for therapy, but she scared me and she's like, oh, it's a 10-year process. And I'm like, I do not want to be in school for 10 years. I'm like, no, we're not doing that.
Oh,
Yeah, so like that seed has always been there wanting to
yeah.
work like in mental health. So I didn't know what this cool route for therapy was at the time, but coaching seemed accessible. So I hired my very first ever coach and I loved it. I got certified as a coach that year. Like I started it. It took me a year to get certified. And during my coaching process, I ended up breaking up with that like ex that I was with. Because I think sometimes like once you see it, you can't
You can't
unsee
unsee
it.
it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's how like the coaching world started. I mean, the story is a lot longer, so let me know if you
Yes.
want me to keep going, or we could just like dive into something else.
Yeah, no worries. That's amazing. You had said something and I had to write it down because otherwise I forget. You said my role in my life. Can you explain that? Like so many people don't are constantly looking outside of themselves. And I've just recently started like adding more of that into like my life as a parent and as just a person in general. Like what is my role in this problem or this world life event or my children's frustration? What role was it that you were looking at when you said I had to look at my role? And
Yeah.
where do you think that began? Like, what is that, um, that unlearning piece or um, that belief that you had that you didn't think it was your role to take?
I love that. So during that time, I was very much in I don't want to say victim mode, but I was in victim mode. It's
Yeah.
almost like I was blaming everyone and everything else. So my parents decided to move us here when I was 16. I'm originally from Egypt, so
Okay.
there wasn't really a conversation around that. It was we're moving next month. It was like very interesting.
Yeah.
So that was the first like I didn't say yes to this, and nobody even asked me, so I was already like
Yeah.
unhappy about that.
Okay.
So I had a lot where I was blaming my parents that I'm here and I'm living this life that's kind of different than what I'm used to in Egypt. And then I was blaming my ex at the time for how I perceived he was treating me and the things that I felt like he was putting me through, right?
Yeah.
But when I started like my also at the time I was in a job that I really disliked and it was really, really stressful for me and I felt like there was no way out. So when I started meditating and kind of like getting into connection with myself, and I guess meditation was my doorway to that, I started realizing, like, wait, I'm not actually stuck. Like, I'm choosing to be in that relationship, right?
Yeah.
Why am I letting him treat me that way? Like, I wasn't even taking accountability just yet for my role, but it was almost like, why am I even letting that happen? I could just break up and walk away. The
Right.
job, like I could find a new job, right? Like how can I make my life better even though I was still not happy about the big move, but how can I create more of a community here? Because also, when you're in that kind of relationship that I was in, and I don't know if other people resonate, but it's very isolating. You
Mm.
stop hanging out with your friends. They get jealous because of every person you're talking to. And next thing you know, your relationship is your entire world. So there was a lot that I felt like I was missing, but I was blaming everybody else for it. And the more that I started connecting with myself, part of connecting with myself had been journaling. I love to write. So just like pouring my heart out on paper, and somehow things like just flow. Like even though I deeply know it, but I can't figure it out with my mind unless I'm writing it down. So dots started connecting as I journaled. I'm like, my current relationship is very much a reflection of how my relationship with my dad had been like. I see a lot of similarities. My relationship with love, like in that relationship, I felt like I needed to do to earn his love, right? So I would compromise all the time. We used to live about 30 minutes apart. 90% of the time I was driving over there versus him coming over to
Yeah.
my area. Go to the restaurants if we're sharing an appetizer. Which one do you want? Yeah, let's get that one, right? Totally, like not even checking in with what I wanted. And I'm just talking about simple things, right? But it gets bigger with the relational dynamic.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of that. And then as I started to realize the patterns between relationship with dad, how am I feeling at the end of the day? Ooh, let me look at my exes. I was feeling very similarly at the end of the day with them too, even though it wasn't to the same intensity, but it was to an extent very similar. I'm like, okay, like I'm seeing the patterns, I'm seeing the similarities. I am choosing this. And that's when it all started. Like, I can do something about this to change it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense. Yeah. And so many people don't stop to reflect on how I'm
Mhm.
feeling, what's occurring in my own life. And it's something that I think is deeply ingrained in us since we're little in our communities. It's very, um, like I grew up Catholic, so it was very much like always give, always give. If you're not giving, you're not good. And so
Mhm.
you tie that into every aspect of your being, and you're like, who am I at the end of the day? Like, there was
Literally.
nothing left for me. Like, I feel so depleted. I don't even feel good giving anymore. And so you had to kind of like stop and really see that, and like
Oh,
hearing everything I just kept hearing, you kept abandoning yourself in that.
oh my gosh. Yes,
And
yes.
it's very interesting because you help women with attachment theories, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
can you
yeah.
explain a little bit about that? Because
Yeah.
I just started researching into this and I was like, oh, this is interesting because I know like it starts when you're young, right, with your
Yeah,
parents.
yeah, absolutely. So you're like spot on. I was very much self-abandoning, and I also want to say like I hear you when you say like we're raised to give, give, give. That's how we show
Hmm.
love because that has been my experience like growing up.
Yeah,
Like my mom would always tell me like, yeah, say thank you. Oh, go do this. Oh yeah, it's all it was almost like it was not nice to say no or to
yeah,
speak up for yourself because like as a girl you had to be a specific way to be perceived as quote unquote good. So I
good.
did definitely carry that into my
Yeah.
relationships. And my self-abandonment started at a really young age. Like every time when I didn't do something I wanted to do, I said no, I tried to belong. All of that was self-abandoning. And for me, it was so ingrained in my autopilot that I did
Hmm.
not know I was self-abandoning.
Yeah.
Um, so that was that. And then talking about attachment. So I love everything like attachment and relationships. I could talk about it forever.
That's what we're
But
all about.
yes, I love it. So yeah, our attachment is formed at a really young age. It's formed with our main caregivers for the most part. Other things can influence it as well as we grow
Yeah.
up, but it's mainly formed by our main caregivers. And it's usually formed between ages of like 0 all the way up to 6.
Mm.
So there are different attachment adaptations, which are called attachment styles. So, like, there are different terms for the same thing. There
Hmm.
is anxious, which is the one that I identified with the most. They're the kind of like partners that need the constant assurance. They're so scared their partner is going to leave them. They're so scared that a fight is going to turn into we're not together anymore. So, there's that constant fear in the background of I don't want to lose you, and that's what
Hmm.
makes us feel anxious in love. There is avoidant, and funny enough, anxious and avoidant are some of like the most common pairings, and they're so
Yeah.
different. So avoidant is the kind of person that gets almost suffocated by being in a relationship. They need their distance, they need their space. their sense of self and their autonomy and their independence and freedom are so, so important to them that when they feel like someone is encroaching on that, they just avoid even more and they need more
Mm.
distance. And it's funny because the anxious needs the constant assurance, like, I need you, I need you, I need you. And then the avoidance,
Exactly.
like, go away, go away, go away, right? And it's
Yeah.
funny how we end up like, getting,
Together, right?
yeah. It's so funny. And then there's a third type. It's called disorganized. I think
Mm.
some people call it fearful avoidant. It's the same thing, just different terms. So disorganized is actually a very interesting attachment adaptation because it is a mix of both anxious and avoidant. It's almost like I want love and I need it, but I'm also so scared of it. So it's like one of the most complicated ones just because you have both, right? And it just
Yeah.
depends on the person and the situation which one is going to come out. And then lastly, secure, which is what we try to or strive to work towards. And secure is, someone who I can be with me and I can be with you. I don't need to self-abandon to be in a relationship. I can love
Yeah.
me and I can love you. So another thing too that I've noticed is like a lot of times, and I did that too, when you start learning about these things, there is so much validation in that. Like, oh my
Mm.
gosh, like, yes, that makes sense. This is me. Other people feel that way too. Okay, I didn't know that. Like, that was definitely my story. And I started identifying with that label. I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
anxiously attached. And now I'm at a place where I absolutely dislike labels because they're very confining and just, I don't
Yes.
like that. And I just want to say that we are not our attachment adaptation. It's the way our body has learned to protect us, but it's not who we are. So there's a
Yeah.
differentiation. Like these are the ways my body protects me when it comes to love, but it's not who I am. So I do want to make that, distinction.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I have so many things coming in instantly. I was like, oh my goodness, I only know two of them. Like, I knew anxious and avoidant because that's like me and my husband had a lot of marriage problems. And so we went to therapy for a while. And we were, I'm anxious, he's avoidant. And I was like, okay, I get it. But now I'm hearing disorganized because that's how I feel I am. It depends on who I'm with. Some people I'm more anxious with, and some people I'm more like, I'm not going to even
Yeah.
bother because there's no point. Um, so it's very interesting. And with this instantly, what comes out for me is, oh my gosh, I think I'm making all anxious girls, like, because obviously I'm a mom. And so that's instantly where my head goes all the time when I'm hearing like new things about how we are raised. And I'm like, oh my gosh,
Mhm.
what would you, obviously, at any stage, I mean, we all have to take radical responsibility for ourselves, but like any advice that you would give to a parent or just to somebody who's learning attachment theories or attachment styles of
Yeah.
like, what would be your first step that they should take in order to start to look at their role and one start to make a change? Because I know you talk a lot about boundaries,
Mhm.
and so that instantly is where my head goes, is like, how do we start to keep ourselves safe when we're just learning to
Mhm.
identify and change our attachment style?
Yeah, yeah. So a few things I want to say. Oh my gosh, you like so much goodness here.
Too many.
Yeah. So the first thing is our attachment adaptation. Like, because I was hearing you say, I identified as anxious, but I also see some avoidance coming out. And I do want to say that our attachment system is very layered. Like, we're rarely just one thing. Like, if you
Yeah.
do like an attachment quiz, especially by like Dr. Diane Poole Heller, you might see that a lot of people have all four. And sometimes
Oh,
you have one that's more dominant. And it just really depends on the situation, the circumstance, the person, the trigger, whatever it might be. And it brings out a different side of us. So
yeah.
for me, I tend to be avoidant in friendships, and I used to be anxious in relationships. I feel like I've moved a lot more towards secure attachment in relationships, but in my friendships, I still lean avoidant. So that's something I'm still
Hmm.
working through. So I just wanted to kind of, go over that for a bit. And then the other piece about parenting. So I feel like I love when like moms or like parents in general like take such accountability of like I want to do better for my girls, for my kids, whatever it may
Yeah.
be. Because that is like where the cycle breaks. Because we tend to repeat how our parents parented us. And when we stop and we say, no, I want to do different, I don't like how I was parented and I want to parent differently, that's where we break generational cycles. And
Yeah.
the one thing that maybe offers a lot of parents comfort is that you do not have to be perfect. And like research shows that you only need to show up securely 30% of the time.
Oh,
Just
wow.
just 30. And then your kids will be wired towards secure. So giving ourselves a lot of grace, right? Because we're
Yeah.
gonna mess up. We're gonna mess
Yeah.
up. But it is
100%.
about like even in life and relationships, we're gonna mess up all the time. But
Hmm.
how do we repair? That's the important piece. So even with our kids, right? I personally don't have kids, but I think about it from the perspective of when I was a kid, right? Um, if my parent were to say something that hurt me and they didn't know that it hurt me, and I say, hey, this hurt me, I would have much rather someone sat there, looked me in the eye, and said, I'm sorry that hurt you.
Yeah.
How can I make it right? Versus maybe, something I probably heard is like, well, stop being so sensitive, go to your room, right?
Oh,
It's so
yes. That's
emotionally invalidating, right?
100%. That's the hardest part. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think like I guess it feels so uncomfortable to give parents advice since I'm not a parent, but
Of
my
course.
invitation would be like, just kindness and love and show them you can protect them. Like
Yeah.
no matter what, as a kid myself, like I wanted to know my parent could protect me. They trusted me to be independent, do my own thing, and I knew I would know that they would catch me if I fall. And when I
Mm.
say fall, I'm not talking just physically in any situation. If I mess up, are you going to be here? Are you going to catch me? Sure, we can have our learning moment from it, but I need to know you're a safe space. So
Yeah.
being a safe space for our kids, I think is the biggest thing. You can never love them too much. Like
Yeah.
love, 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 kindness, protection. That would be the way.
That's so beautiful. I love that because I mean, I always love to get advice from people who are not parents, even
Mhm.
though when I was first starting out, people would give me advice and I'd be like, this is not helpful advice. That
Yeah.
was helpful advice because you're like only 30%. It was like validating to like, no, you don't have to be perfect. Like so many times I'm hearing so much advice from even parents that are like very toxic. And it's like, okay, you don't understand any human, any human design, right? Like it's so difficult.
Yeah.
Um, so I love that. Thank you so much. And as you were talking, I was laughing because I was like, oh my gosh, she was so right. Like we attached to these labels instantly as you were talking about the labels. I started to identify as one. And then I was like, oh, I haven't seen this. And it's like, it's just there for the awareness piece to help us
Mhm.
grow. So it was really cool to see that. So tell me more about how you work with women. Like, what are your ideal clients and how if someone here listening today is like, oh, this is really interesting, I want to work with you. What is your process with
Mm.
helping them go from being the anxious woman, constantly seeking out love from others, and then where will she be when she's out of
Mhm.
your container?
Yeah, yeah. I love working with women who are into self-development. Like they've already read the books, they've already
Yeah.
heard the podcasts. Because I feel like I was that kind of woman. So I'm basically, I think they always say that, but you end up like supporting women who were a different version of you. And
Yes.
that's what I identify with the most is the woman who was doing all the work because she knew it was within her control to change and she wanted to quote unquote heal herself. Just disclaimer, we are never really fully healed. That is not a
Exactly.
thing. Um, but these are the kind of women I love to work with. And I end up working with women who just had a breakup like not too long ago. Because that's where they're like, okay, I don't want to do this again. I'm ready to start, having better, living a better, like love life. So when I work with women, I mean, it really depends on the stage that the client is coming in at. But the
Mhm.
very first thing we talk about is like, one, yes, we're going to talk about this is where I'm at and this is my quote unquote my problem, but we also create a lot of safety and recognize what safety is even like. Some people don't even know what safety feels like. So we
Mhm.
start working with that. What can I find that, how can I create a sense of safety within my body, whether it's internally, externally, what do I need to feel a little bit more safer? Because safety, I think, is the foundation of any work. We can't do the work if we're not feeling safe. So I start off with
Correct.
creating safety. For some clients, that takes a while to create that
Yeah.
sense of safety. And then once we do safety, we do a lot of experiential work in our sessions. So I do a lot of like the somatic experiencing modality as well as DARE. So somatic experiencing is a trauma resolution modality. DARE is all about attachment. And in simple terms, they are, what happened that shouldn't have happened,
Hmm.
and who should have been there that wasn't there, or who was there that shouldn't have been there. It's almost like our wounds are created because something was not right or
Mm.
something happened that shouldn't have happened. So when we do work, it's so important that we start off with safety and then we touch into the wound. I do like a thing, and that's per somatic experiencing as well. It's called titrated, where we don't fully go into the wound, right? We don't say like,
Hmm.
yeah, purge it out, cry it out, shake it out. Like that is just so traumatizing. So we
Yeah,
do not do that because that can overwhelm our nervous system. So we touch
for
into
sure.
the wound a little bit. What
Yeah.
needed to be there that wasn't, and we create corrective experiences.
Mm.
And then, we kind of go back to safety. And then we come back, touch into the wound a little bit. And then we resolve another piece. And then a lot of times they're so related to other things that there is a bit of a domino effect. And then
Hmm.
we go back to safety. So it's like almost like a game of like balance and being so
Yeah.
attuned to see like my client, is this manageable, or do I need to bring in more safety? So kind of
Hmm.
balance it out. And what ends up happening is and I want to explain it simply is, our attachment adaptations, like I said earlier, they are how we protect ourselves in love. So why do we protect ourselves in love? Because we have wounds in love that happened that made us feel like love is not safe. And in order for me to stay in connection, I have to protect myself. So when
Hmm.
we go to those experiences and we rewire them, for lack of better words, or we create those corrective experiences, what ends up happening is that now that memory is integrated in a different way. So now my body doesn't see love in that particular situation as a threat because we resolved it. So then
Yeah.
our protective parts feel like, well, I don't need to be here anymore because there's no need for me to be here. And that
Yeah.
goes on with like different situations. So the goal is by the end of our work together, which sometimes takes a while, I have to be very realistic about that, is that the client starts to move more and more securely. And sometimes it starts with identifying what is even secure. Like some people don't even know. I didn't know. I'm like, what is
Yeah.
secure? Like, how do you even identify that? So even realizing that to start moving towards it and embodying it. Okay, I hope that
Beautiful.
wasn't too confusing.
No, it was beautiful. I do want to ask you, so a lot of times people when they're new to this type of work, they come into like thinking somatics is like something very woo woo, or they're like, "Oh my God, what am I going to be doing, like dancing or doing like what is somatics? How am I going to show up in this embodied state
Mhm.
where I am learning how to feel safe in my body? What would somatic experience look like? Because just like I give
Mm.
an example. So for the person who's scared to enter into somatics with
Yeah.
somebody, because I feel like that can bring their own fear-based stuff where they don't
Mhm.
even experience it.
Yeah, so somatics is basically working with our body because our body does hold a lot of memory.
Hmm.
Like a lot of our subconscious is held in our body.
Yeah.
So it's sometimes it's referred to as like the bottoms up approach or going,
Hmm.
upwards, versus mindset work is top down, which you just talk about it. Mindset work is amazing and is very supportive, but when it comes to those kind of things that I talk about, that is not enough. You can't resolve your wound by talking about it. A lot of times that ends up reactivating the wound and you feel it all over again. And then you cry thinking, oh, I'm purging it, but you're really not. You're just being re-traumatized again.
Correct.
So that's why working with your body, when it comes to these particular things, it's so important because you don't necessarily have to talk about it. You sense, it's almost like we are like almost turning on like the emotional part of our body while keeping the logical part of our body both online, and we're working with both. So it almost
Yeah.
sometimes to me it feels like a meditative kind of state because when I'm in the client seat, the practitioner is like, what are you sensing in your body? Oh, where is
Yeah.
that? I'm like, oh, I'm feeling like tightness here. Can we be with that? Is that manageable? And like if I stay with the tightness, what happens? Does it resolve on its own? Do I get an image or a thought? And we go
Mm,
from there. So it's such an experience. Like you never know what you're going to like see when you're doing this, but it's
yeah.
always so enjoyable because we're basically tapping into our subconscious, and our subconscious speaks in sensation and image and
Yeah.
movement. So like, talking is not gonna do much when it comes to that. We have to feel our way through it because then we're changing the memory that is held in the body. We're not changing the history of what happened, but we are
Yeah.
changing the way it impacted us. And when we
Yeah.
change the way it impacted us, like I mentioned earlier, then our body doesn't feel the need to protect us from it anymore because it doesn't
Yeah.
feel scary.
For sure. So a lot
Yeah.
of it is just feeling into the body. It's not actually like you wouldn't have a client stand up or like do things like
It's
that,
both.
depending. It's both. Okay.
It's both because I'll explain another piece is with somatic experiencing, for instance, it's what nervous system response was
Mm,
incomplete. Like, what did your body want to do that it didn't get to do? So, for example, I'll give an example. Um, let's say I'll actually share one of my stories with you. Um, I had a memory come up when I was doing a session as a client where when I was like really young, I forget how old I was, but definitely under 10. I was just being like a playful girl, and I was sitting on a double-sided couch
mm-hmm.
and two men were sitting on the other side of the couch. So I get up and I'm like, kind of scaring them or doing something silly. And that guy yelled at me. He yelled at me. He said, I'm so disrespectful, all the things. And then the other guy said, you can't talk to a child like that. And I remember at the time I was feeling so much like sadness and anger. And I was at a hotel at the time with my family. I ran to the hotel room. I didn't want to talk about it. That was it. When I revisited that again in a session as the client, I didn't know that that was the memory that's going to come up. That's the memory that came up. And the way that we resolved it is, some of the questions that the practitioner asked me was like, well, if we were to pause that situation, right? And if you could say or do anything that you wanted to do, what would that have looked like? And I wanted to kick him. I wanted to like, fight him. And
Yeah.
that was my fight response. Did not get to complete. But in that experience, I got to complete it because I imagine myself fighting him. And, you can either imagine yourself doing it or you can actually do it physically, whatever, the client feels comfortable doing. At the time, I was imagining it. And part of the attachment is having secure, right? So, she had made the invitation of, well, if you were to have someone with you, someone that could protect you, someone who could, take care of this for you, who would you want to have there? So I had my mentor come in, and both of us were kind of like going at it. And then he protected me and stood in front of me. After that, once that session was over, I can talk about this right now, no problem, before I would cry. So,
Yeah.
because this has been resolved, and that used to cause a lot of like hiding for me, a lot of like, I'm scared of embarrassment. I don't want to do or say the thing because what if they reject me? So much could happen in just one tiny little situation like that. So, I kind of hope that
Yeah.
explained it a little bit more.
Oh no, it totally did. Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. And it's all dependent upon the person. So
Yes.
it's
Yes.
really subjective to who they are. I love that.
Yeah.
Um, and so I wanted to, if somebody wants to work with you, what's the best way for them to go about doing that? Would they contact you through social media? Do you have a website? How would they go about?
Yeah, I would say definitely social media, Instagram, because then I'm very active on my Instagram, so I would respond
Yes.
right away.
Okay.
So they could reach out to me on Instagram, and like shoot me a little message, and then I just talk to them and take next steps from there just to see if it's the right, fit for both of us.
Perfect. Yeah. So do you do like application
I do have
process?
an
Okay.
application process, yeah, and sometimes I like to chit chat, and that would be my application process, and then there's a
Okay.
formal one if that's the
Okay.
route that they take. Yeah.
Awesome. Wonderful. Okay. And then when we are talking about the work that you do, obviously we're talking about like a lot of the somatic work, but also you had mentioned that you, in your notes that you gave me, you talked about boundaries.
Mhm.
I really wanted to touch on this because
Oh
this has
yeah.
been something that I see so much on social media, so many people putting boundaries. And when I first started learning about boundaries, I was like, I felt like I had to be like this
Hmm.
strong, like, you can't talk to me this way, and like, don't do this. Like, to me, a boundary was like, kind of mean in a sense.
Yeah.
And I think obviously because I never learned boundaries. How
Mhm.
would you, as a coach, tackle teaching somebody boundaries and like
Um,
what is what would be the simplest way? Because even now, there's times when I'm like, okay, what's a boundary with my kid? How do I go about it? And I know it's meant to keep me safe, but like
mhm,
when you talk about boundaries, your ego tends to come in and it
mhm.
comes like, I have to like, obviously, if you've been hurt or anything like that, I always feel like that I have the boundary is now like the superhero, like protector. But how would you tackle teaching
Yeah,
somebody
yeah.
boundaries?
I so resonate too with like what you said because when I first started learning about boundaries, I started like the word boundaries came to mind just because of social media and what I was
Yes.
reading online. That was before I learned it for myself. And when we first learn about boundaries, we go extreme with it. We're
Oh
like,
yeah.
no, don't do that, you know. And I'm sure everybody's read that quote, like boundaries are not walls or something like that.
Yes.
But when we first learn boundaries, we put walls. But boundary really like broken down, it's recognizing our inner agency, like recognizing our inner yes, our inner no. What
Mm,
feels like a yes for me, what feels like a no. And if something feels like, well, I don't know, then can we be with that, right? Like you don't have to
mm,
figure it out right now. Because a lot of times, sometimes depending on just our history and stuff, we might feel rushed to give people an answer or we might feel rushed to make a decision, but then we're not listening because
mm,
what if your body is not hasn't communicated that with you yet, right? Like why are we making a decision? So I think of boundaries as a way that we take care of ourselves. What do I need in this moment?
beautiful.
And whatever it is that I need, that becomes vocalized through my boundary. And boundaries are very flexible. They change. Like maybe a boundary I had yesterday when I was at capacity, I don't have it today because today I'm feeling like I want to do it. So I think boundaries are very flexible. They're not hard rules. I think they're gateways and they're not walls or doors. Like you open or close them whenever you want. You get to
Yeah.
decide that. Boundaries are not about keeping people out. They're about keeping yourself in connection with yourself in
Mm,
an authentic way. So if someone were to start learning about boundaries, it depends, but we could start off with saying, can you feel a yes in your body when I say beach or mountain? Let's take it so simple.
yeah.
Coffee or tea, hot or like summer or winter and just
Yeah.
feeling which one your body's feeling pulled to. What's your yes, what's your no? Sometimes it takes us time to even learn that because if we're
Mm,
so attuned outward to what the other person wants or needs, and that's usually very like an anxious when our protection is anxious, that's what we
yeah.
do. Um, Tuning inwards is foreign. We're like, well, I don't know how I feel, right? So we start
Mm,
really, really small to build that. And then, can I say yes to the thing that I want? Is that too
mm,
uncomfortable? Is that too scary? Well, what's 1% where I could, show up as that yes? 2%. The no is usually the hardest one because we're so used to saying yes. Well, what's a way I could say no that nothing bad could happen, right? Like if I just said no to, no, thank you, I don't want coffee, right? Or something so small,
yeah.
can I let myself do that? So that would be the simplest way of starting to recognize our yeses and our nos. Sometimes the no is inaccessible so that we could say, well, can I get back to you by tomorrow and let you know? And I give myself some time to figure out how do I want to say that no? Because at the beginning, saying that no is uncomfortable. It's very scary.
Yeah.
And sometimes like the way we like in sessions, when we do it somatically in a way like this is also somatic, but when we do it somatically in a way is like how far or how close do you want me to be? Right? And
Mm,
seeing how their body responds. Like I could be this close and they're uncomfortable. I could go further. Sometimes I might have to go so far out because that's what they feel comfortable with. And that's amazing because that's them recognizing their boundary. Um, so I hope that answered your question, but if it didn't,
that did. It
oh,
was really beautiful. I really liked it because I never looked at boundaries as a yes or no. I looked at it as how do I keep myself safe? It
yeah.
felt like I had to have boundaries as walls almost. That's like you can't talk to me this way. Whereas now, like as I've learned, I'll say to my kids like right now I'm exhausted. We did a lot of things today. I don't want to take you right now to your friends. Can you call one of their parents? And then they're like mad at me, and I'm like, your feelings are important, but I have to protect myself. My energy's low right now, so
Yeah.
I can't do this right now. It's not feeling good. And so when I learned that, I love that you had said the yes or no, because when I first started, it felt like the moment I stopped to ask myself what I wanted, it was instantly like, just do it. You're a
Mm,
bad mom if you don't, or you're a bad person if you don't. Like, you still
yeah.
have energy. You're still moving. You're not passed out on the couch. Get up and go. Like, just do it.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you could drive home and you'd be angry. And I'm like, why am I angry? I'm like, because I abandoned myself. There was
Oh my
no
gosh.
yes or no.
Yeah.
Right.
I do want to say something about that because I feel like, the happier we are, that better, quote unquote, better parents we can be to our kids. And as, like when I put myself in the kids' shoe, the happier my mom was, the happier I
Hmm.
was because the way she
Yeah.
showed up with me was different. When they're not happy, there's like you're coming in with that energy of like almost you're at capacity. So the littlest of things I'm gonna say or do might push you off the edge, and you might yell at me. You might be mean, right?
Yeah.
So recognizing and honoring our boundaries, as caregivers is so important. And it's also about how we say it, right? Like if like an example, maybe, let's say my kid wants to do something and I'm just not in the mood. Like I could say, hey, mommy's really tired right now. Is that okay if we do that this other day? Or would you prefer if you call, or do this or that? Like giving them
Yeah.
choice, right? Because they get to access their sense of like, oh, I'm making a choice, my sense of agency, right? I would
Yeah.
love to do that with you, but can we do it tomorrow? Kind of like that. And I love the way that
Yeah.
you said it and letting them know their emotions are important because sometimes as kids, we personalize things. We think, "Oh, like, they're mean to me, they don't like me." And,
Oh, yeah.
as we grow older, we make up these stories that are not true, but it's just how we're perceiving things. So kindness is definitely the way to go because we can say the same thing we want to say, but if we say it kindly, it just lands like so much differently.
Yeah. And learning how to feel safe in that, because that's definitely like, with your somatic work, just that process of like, where do you feel in your body? You don't even realize it that you have all these
Yeah.
issues that you brought into this relationship with this new being who's never had relationships, and you're
Hmm.
like, oh my gosh, I'm
Yeah.
so projecting and I'm so like just perpetuating these cycles. And we don't realize it, but giving ourselves grace and then
Oh, for
continuing to
sure.
just check your ego and show up every day is so beautiful. And I love that, like, even though you're doing this work with women for love, it's going to prepare them if they're not always already parents for that role.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, like, get in and do this work before you have a relationship. I tell my kids
Mhm.
every day, I'm like, before you date, you need to know these things. And like,
Yeah.
I'm going to be checking on them, because if you don't know what you need, how can you love somebody else? Like,
Right,
you're
right.
not loving yourself. So, no, any type of love you receive is not going to feel like love, right? It's going to
Yeah.
feel, you won't be able to receive it. And that's what you help all these women do. And so, it's
Yeah.
really so beautiful, the work that you're doing. I love it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like this work is so important because I've seen the effects of it because
Yeah.
I've been very much like super, super anxious. Like talk about not knowing my yes or my no at all. Like
Yeah.
I would always say like, "Oh, hey, do you want to do this?" "Oh, of course, I'd love to do this." And then feel so anxious afterwards. I'm like, "Oh my God, why did I say yes to this?" Like
Right?
literally a story of my life. Like, where do you want to eat? Oh, I don't know,
Yeah,
whatever you want. And I'm like, no, I
exactly.
don't want to eat this right now, but I'm just saying whatever you want. So this work is so important, not just in love. Like it's in finding our own power in being ourselves, whether in
Yes.
friendships and love. And a part of the work is you end up feeling really confident in who you are. And
Yeah,
confidence is just it's that self-trust is just like I'm me and I don't need to change me for anybody else, if it's not in
exactly.
alignment. So that's such a big thing.
Yeah, and everything that you said is like such great like little tidbits. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love everything. But if you were to give, as we wrap up, if you were to give somebody who is struggling in love, who's constantly self-abandoning, if you were to give them one piece of advice to help them start or inspire them to start an unlearning process,
Hmm.
to help them grow, what would that be?
I love that. I would definitely say it's tune inwards or learn to tune inwards more. And like what I mean by that is um change is not going to be a flip of a switch. And it always starts with, wait, well, what do I want? How do I feel? I've noticed a lot of my clients who, when they are more and they're anxious, and so was I, it's almost like we get mad at ourselves for how we feel.
Mm,
And that is us emotionally invalidating ourselves, which is probably what happened somewhere along the way, right? So, like, can we start with that? Like, can we recognize I'm feeling some type of way, even if I can't name it? Some people can't name what they're feeling. So even if I can't name it, can I just acknowledge that I'm feeling something, whatever that something is, and can I be there with myself through it, you know? And if I can recognize it, okay, almost giving ourselves that kindness, like, okay, I know I'm feeling some type of way right now, and I'm here for me. And just being with that. We don't need to fix, we don't need to do anything. We just need to show up. So just like start tuning inwards more. What am I feeling? Do I want to do this? Even if you're gonna quote unquote self-abandon and you're gonna say, yes, sure, I'm gonna do it, but at least recognize, do you even want it or not, right? So
yeah.
like starting really small. I think the journey of reclaiming ourselves is such a beautiful journey, and we could start as small as we want to go, and those
Yeah.
small um like steps have such a big ripple effect. So just like tuning inwards more, what do I want, how do I feel, can I speak to myself just a tad bit kinder, because sometimes we can be really critical. Oh, you shouldn't have
Yeah.
said that. Oh, you shouldn't have done that. Well, what if I can be with myself through that? Like, okay, I said that and I was scared, and that's okay, right? So just starting with that, I would say, would be one of the important like first steps.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Mm.
And thank you so much for being here.
Uh,
So are you opening, is your enrollment for or coaching right now open, or are you accepting new clients right now?
yes. So my enrollment is open for August.
Okay.
People can reach out to me or apply on Instagram. They can find me at the Nora Edit. I also have another Instagram account, Inner Butterfly. So either of those accounts, just reach out to me. I'm always active. I'll respond to you as soon as I can. And yeah.
Wonderful. And everything will be in the show notes so people can contact you. And I really appreciate you being here and I love all the work you're doing. And thank you for sharing your unlearning journey with us.
Thank you for having me. This was so
Of
much fun.
course. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today on the Paige Trippin' podcast. I hope today's episode gave you a new perspective or a moment of, yes, I'm not alone in this. Remember, this journey of unlearning and feeling safe in your body isn't meant to be a solo trip. It's a process that requires support, guidance, and a safe community. If you're ready to move past just listening and actually start doing the deeper work of nervous system regulation, I'm here to help. My signature group coaching program, Emotional Fire Drills, is where we apply the tools we talk about here in a structured, supportive environment. We work together to help you build resilience and regulation skills you need to navigate life with more ease. If this sounds like the right next step for you, head to the link in my bio to learn more and see how we can start working together. I can't wait to connect with you next time. Remember, if you have topic suggestions, questions, or guests you'd like to have on the podcast, drop them in the comments or email me at pagetrippin1@gmail.com. And don't forget to follow the podcast, rate and review it to keep the podcast's mission growing. Thank you for unlearning and growing with me, and remember to keep tripping with intention. Until next time.